speaker, Alan D. from Evans, Colorado.
All right. Thank you. My name's Alan. I'm an alcoholic. Additional expenses, tuxedo rentals, inside joke. Anyway, hey, how do you know two alcoholics are on to the second date? There's a moving van in one of their driveways. Okay, so we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and been given the power to help others. My experience in March of 2000, when I was on the basement of my parents, on the floor in my parents' basement, drinking Listerine, trying to keep it down, I didn't have that paragraph in my life. My experience was that I started drinking early. Alcohol, I noticed, did something for me, whereas it did something to my friends and my associates. It would make me happy, joyful, I would fit in, I belonged, all those sort of things. And so I drank through the high school years and into the 20s, seemingly without any trouble. Alcohol was always an answer for me. And what happened to me was I found that I started drinking a little more often. I started drinking when I didn't want to drink. In other words, the hair of the dog, that sort of thing. And in my story, I'll spend some time on the Drunkalog, but that's just to identify. Welcome to the new people, and thank you, Sean. You look better than I did earlier today, by the way. Anyway, wherever he is. We had to go rent this. I didn't know that. Anyway, I'm serious. At 6:20, some great friends from your group had me down seriously at Jerry's Tuxedo, wherever it is, renting a tuxedo. So I don't know how I got off on that. Anyway, because I'm really uncomfortable in it, tell you the truth, but that's okay. It's not about me. It's about if I can help somebody tonight. So anyway, so I started drinking, and I continued to drink, and I'd have those, I started having blackouts and run-ins with the law, and eventually it got me to a point where I got society in whole decided that I needed to be locked up. So I ended up in the Department of Corrections in the state of Colorado in 1985. And what happened there was that was my first exposure to Alcoholics Anonymous. They came in, Big Bill Leonard came in with a meeting and told me about Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, now I was in there on an 8-year sentence, and the thought occurred to me was, if I should ever need this, I think I know where I'll go. Now the reason that's significant for me was I was in that denial, or that not believing that alcohol had brought me to this point. So I did my little prison sentence, and I continued while I was in prison, and I continued to be released, drink again, come back, be released. What really stuck with me was the first time I was released after 42 months, I didn't think about wanting to get together with my family. I didn't think about wanting to get a good meal or get together with a girlfriend or anything else. I wanted to drink. That's what I wanted, was to drink. And that's what I did. I was drunk on the bus leaving the Rocky Ford, Colorado, where the prison was that I was released from. So anyway, so the obsession had taken over. The physical allergy, I had that reaction to, and I had to have that alcohol. So I drank for another 15 years, and I had a lot of experiences in those 15 years. I had that... I'd get a job and I'd drink that away, and everything else became more important. I'd keep showing up in, I called it occupational hazards, detoxes, hospitals, public drunks, all those kind of things. Those are problems those are just occupational hazards if you're a drunk, and that's what I was. I was a drunk, and I had no way out. And I remembered Bill Leonard telling me about Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember way back in '85. And so my experience, and this is part of my story, and if it offends anyone, I apologize. I'm not here to offend anyone. But part of my story was that, I started to come around Alcoholics Anonymous. And what I mean by that is I would come around Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd come into there's a meeting. I'd come and go to a meeting, eat a few groceries. I was sitting around looking for her. I don't know if anyone in here has ever experienced that. I was looking for a place to live, jobs, whatever. So I started using Alcoholics Anonymous for the wrong thing. And I didn't really believe I was alcoholic. I didn't know what it meant to be an alcoholic. So the long and the short of it is that I get into Alcoholics. I'm around Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm going to meetings, and I'm still getting drunk, and I'm coming back, and I'm going out, and I'm coming back. But the illness is my periods of drunkenness are longer, and the periods of dryness are shorter. So I'm drinking to get well. I'm starting to get the dry heaves. I've got to have that morning drink. I've got to, I love the way Bill talks about it in his book, in his story, that, I started having those, I'd have to have that drink in the morning to get anything down, and I'm surprised that Bill says to get any breakfast down. I was not interested in eating. But I also like the following paragraphs is that Bill says, and gradually things got worse. I love that, because that's just how I thought. I remember I was laying I was staying with a couple other drunks up in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is north of Denver, and we were living in a playhouse, and we had, layers of clothes and a nice 5 or 6 sleeping bags in there, and we had a jug, and we had a cigarette, and packs of cigarettes, and, I remember whatever you'd call that, snuggling in or whatever with the boys, and I was thinking to myself, this isn't too bad. I'm serious. I grew up Southern California, middle class, whatever. I'm living in a playhouse, and this isn't too bad. Come on, Alan. So another time I was at a bar, and I started having some spiritual experiences here and there in different bars and situations I came to one time. Snuggled up to a guy or to a gal I thought at the time who had a 5 o'clock shadow, and I was alcoholic enough to not run out of the bar. I ran and got a double. That's what I did. I had to have more liquor. See, I had to have more of the problem. I knew it was a problem, but I had to have more of it. Didn't make any sense. I couldn't figure it out. I was baffled. So when I got to that place where that clawing on the insides, and I don't know if some of you know what that is, that gnawing at your soul, that gnawing and death. I said I welcomed death, and I thought I would die as a drunk, and I had resigned myself to the fact that was what was going to happen. And so that clawing on the inside, and just and so I took that last drink of Listerine, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I just cannot do it. And so I went. Took me about 3 days to quit dry heaving and to get a hold of some people in Alcoholics Anonymous that had tried to help me, had tried to carry the message. The steps are over here. Had tried that 12-step call and tried to carry the message to me, a hopeless drunk. So I got a hold of them, and they said, look up this guy's phone number, And so I'm shaking, I'm sick. So about the third day, I get to a meeting. I get to this man's house, and we're on his porch. And I remember we're on his porch because I'm still dry heaving, man. I can't keep anything down. I'm sick. And so he starts reading the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, to me, and he reads to me, and I don't remember a whole lot. I just remember the part in the book where it talked about this is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. And that's about all I really remember, that this book carried the answer. And that when I left there, I had some hope. And being hopeless at that time, I I believed if I did what these guys said. So my story starts there. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and it wasn't pretty at first. I didn't come in, my experience when I was around Alcoholics Anonymous, and I touch on this a little bit because it's part of my story. I'd be around Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'd hear this thing about get a sponsor. And so now why do I want to get someone that I can call at midnight and have them talk me out of drinking? I don't want that, right? No, I didn't. Looked around, no one quite cool enough, so I decided I'd sponsor myself. Hey, easiest time I had in Alcoholics Anonymous was sponsoring myself. Sit back, read a little GQ, eat a few groceries, go to a meeting when I wanted to. The only problem was the thought came to my mind and I ran it by my sponsor, I think I'll have a drink. So about 90 days into the deal, me and my sponsor are drunk. It didn't work too well. So there was a lot, it was horrible. Anyway, so I come crawling back into, so that was my experience there with self-sponsorship. I was, of course, like I said, I'd come to AA and, I would sit in what I call the half measures section, with my arms crossed, contempt for all these old guys, what do they know about? They don't have it as bad as me, blah, 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 all that stuff that would go through my mind. And so when I finally got a hold of Bill, my sponsor, and he gave me some hope, and he started to take me through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, he offered me hope. And so the first thing he said to me, which really hurt my feelings, was he said, Alan, this isn't about you anymore. It's about the guy you're going to help. And I really didn't like that. And so then he pointed out to me in the book, he always goes to this book. He says that under there is a solution here. He says, almost none of us liked the self-searching. You're not going to like it, Alan, It's not about you liking it. So we did that first step. We took that first step. We were powerless over alcohol. Our lives had become unmanageable. My life was unmanageable. Not only my physical being, but my emotions. I was prey to irrational fears and anger and resentments and all those sort of things that I don't know if any of you had these fears. I remember walking to the liquor store, and I had done nothing wrong to this liquor store, but I was walking to this liquor store overtaken with the idea and the fear that they weren't going to sell me liquor. Don't know where that came from. Hadn't done anything wrong. Had money in my pocket, just out of nowhere. So my life was just horrible with those kind of fears. So then we went to the second step, and it says, came to believe in a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And so at the time, I wasn't a big, I was an agnostic. I was without knowledge. I didn't really know what the deal was. I had faith, some in my own thinking, which had gotten me to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, so that wasn't very good. But I didn't have a real strong belief system in a power greater than myself at that time. And so he just explained to me, just simply came to believe. You're coming to believe, Alan. You're coming to believe in a power greater than yourself, and that it can restore you to sanity. My insanity begins when I think of myself first. I don't know about for all you, but for me, I always thought it was doing the same thing over and over, which that is, but all that starts with me thinking of myself first. If I think of retaliation or if I think of anger or something, I'm thinking of myself first. So he explained that to me. And then we went to the third step, and it says, made a decision to turn our will and our life over the care of God as we understood him. And he says, you're just merely going on with the rest of the steps, Alan. Don't get all worked up over it. Just don't get worked up. Just go ahead and go on with the rest of the steps. And so I did that. And then we started in on the fourth step. And the fourth step, moral inventory. And I remember starting that moral inventory, and I remember him talking to me, and it talks about in the book, and I know you guys all know this, that, if we hold on to something or if we don't clean house completely, we're likely to drink again. Well, that was my experience the earlier times I'd come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I had come and done a couple of those four steps with, I call them, they were like a blame sheet. I just fill out all everything was wrong with that person, and it wasn't an honest or thorough 4-step. And so he shared some things with me, and what happened in that process of him sharing things with me was he opened my heart. He touched my heart, and I was able to share with him something I had held on to for 27 years, and I was free of it. I was free of it. So the book proves to be true in my life, that if I hang on to something, I will drink again. And so I was able to release that. I was able to give that to God of my understanding, and I was able to walk out of there a free man after that 4-step. I remember starting my 4-step, and I did the columns, and I had it on the little notebook, and I had it on the counter, and I'd circle around, and I'd maybe write something. It was a real painstakingly slow process at first, but what I discovered was that once I did that, once I started to write, it flowed and it worked. And I guess part of the story that I want to share over and over is that this thing works. You all know it works, but I'm here to say that it works because I'm a throw up through your nose drunk. I am. And this works. And so I did the 4-step, wrote that down. Then I went to the 5th step, and I told my sponsor my entire life story, and that took a few hours, to say the least. And he reminded me. He says, early on, he said things like, get a sponsor to get sober. If you want to stay sober, be a sponsor, and all these things early on. Then, it came back to me, but they registered. I remember it was probably 90 days, 120 days, somewhere in there, that I was sitting in a meeting, and that the thought came to me that I hadn't thought about taking a drink for that day. That was a long time. I drank 28 years, something like that. That was a long time. And to sit there and realize that was something that I had not produced on my own. All I had done was cooperated with this power. All I had done was cooperated with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and to be relieved of that horrible obsession. I don't know about you all, but for me, what a freedom that is today, to come to Vegas or to come anywhere and not to have that horrible thought of taking a drink, having to have a drink. So that was removed. So the 5th step worked. The 6 and 7, these character defects and these shortcomings. When I came around Alcoholics Anonymous, and I heard them talking about the 7 deadly sins, right? Greed, lust, pride. I thought these were attributes. Okay? That's the way I lived. I lived as though these were things to grow toward or to achieve. People were obstacles, or they were inconveniences. I didn't have any use for anybody unless I could get something out of them. And so when we started talking about character defects, and they used the 7 deadly sins, and I was like, whoa, it's a change of ideas, attitudes, and emotion. I really got to change this. How can I do this? I can't do this on my own. And so through 6 and 7, I became willing to look at these things and to see that I could live a different way of life. And so I get into 8 and 9, the list comes off of there, and some of the list was came off the 5th step or 4th step, and some of it I had amends to make to institutions and to some people that I had caused harm that I had no resentment in connection with. And so I remember my sponsor knew I was right in the midst of this, making this list. And so I call up, I'd say, Bill, and he'd say, it's not them. Click. What? What do you mean it's not them? It's got to be them. I'm on this list. It's always them. And so every time I call, that's what he would do. It's not them. It's not them. And so finally I got to see on that list. And then in 9, where it says we make direct amends, I still trying to figure out a way to do this on my own, occasionally. drift off of the program and think of doing some more, what I call that knowledge from nowhere. I don't know if any of you guys get that. I get that on a pretty regular basis, and I think, oh, I can write these folks a letter. Well, my sponsor pointed out to me that I didn't harm them with a letter. You harmed them directly, so you're going to go and make a direct amends. I didn't like that either, but that's what I ended up doing. And so I did make letter amends, but that was a different situation. The book talks about it. And so then we come into 10, and I don't know about you guys, but to me, step 10, I know we read the promises, and this isn't a book study, it's a speaker meeting and all that, but my story's wrapped all up in the book. I mean, it's I can tell you how not to do the program Alcoholics Anonymous, and then I can tell you how I did it. And in 10, you know, I think it gives some of the greatest promises to a drunk could ever have, that we will, you know, it says, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as a hot flame. For anyone with 30 days or less to have that, that's a heck of a promise. I couldn't imagine life without ever being interested in liquor. It says we react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort. It just comes. We're not fighting it. We're not avoiding it. What a promise for a drunk like myself, that I'm not going to be interested in liquor. I'm going to walk through wherever I am, a casino or a country club or a bar or a dance hall, and I'm not going to be interested in liquor. I mean, to me, that is just powerful. So step 10 gives me that promise. It also gives me that idea that doing that personal inventory, you know, I write down, you know, if I was wrong, I promptly admitted it. If there's something I need to share with somebody, that's what I need to do, and I need to follow those instructions, because what I did prior to coming into Alcoholics Anonymous was I always did it on my own. I always did it my way. I wouldn't do the 10th. Well, I never really got to the 10th step. I couldn't get past much Allen. So then, so 11 sought through prayer and meditation, and they tell us in the book, don't be shy. I didn't know how to pray. But what my sponsor did was he didn't tell me how to pray. He showed me how to pray. He got down on his knees in the morning and had me read 86 and 87. And he said, this is what I did, and this is what my sponsor had me do. And so that's what I do. And so in 11, they showed me. They didn't just tell me. And so then 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of this, as a result of these steps, you know, I try to carry this message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Well, that's a huge part, you know, and it's not really a separate part. That's another thing I get confused about sometimes. I hear people talk about service as though it's a separate entity. It's recovery, service, and unity. It's a circle. That's the way it was explained to me. And so I became the GSR, and then I had the privilege of being the GSR for that group. Now, if you ever want to really it talks about working with others, go to a group conscience if you want to learn to work with others, you know, because my experience is that was more difficult. The new guy either wants to get sober or doesn't want to get sober, but work in a group conscience, work with other alcoholics at that level, and you really practice those principles. You learn more about practicing those principles of the 11 in the 11th step in the 12 by 12. St. Francis prayer. You know, there's some light, love, and joy, and some harmony, and open-mindedness, and willingness, and that's what I've learned through the program. And so then the GSR. The GSR experience was great, because it made me feel part of. You know, we do together what I can't do alone, and so I really saw that on a larger scale than I come from a home group that has we have 8 people at our group consciences. We have 15 people average for a meeting. So I come from a small group, but I really felt part of. You know, there's a power that takes place between me and you that there's a power there that I can't duplicate sitting by myself. I can't duplicate that with a non-alcoholic. There's something that happens. I don't know what it is. I got off the airplane this afternoon. I talked to Ryan on the phone, and boom, he was there to pick me up. And I mean, it was just like I knew Ryan for, a lot of years. I mean, that's just the power of the fellowship. Then, of course, there was a couple other folks that had to come along as my. I feel like I should be asking for the envelope, at the Emmys or something. I don't know. Anyway, this is weird. Tuxedo at an AA meeting. That's never happened. Has that ever happened? Anyway, I don't know why that's got me thrown off. Obviously, I need to practice some of those principles. So with the GSR, that's what we do. We do this stuff together, and Alcoholics Anonymous, I can't duplicate that power, that feeling, that connection. And so I was involved in the GSR. I go out to the detox meetings out in the area where I'm from. I've been doing that about 5 years, and I don't share that to boast. I share that as part of my experience, that it's been the most rewarding time I've ever spent in Alcoholics Anonymous, is to go and hold the hand of a guy that's having a alcoholic seizure and be able to gain his confidence when no one else standing around him, those medical people or the ambulance people. Nobody else can do that. I could look him in the eye and say, it's going to be okay because I've had him. You're going to be okay. I don't believe that the grace of God allowed Alan to get sober for Alan to become rich and famous and all this other sort of thing. Alan got sober to be able to talk to the drunk and help. I was told, and I'll pass this on, I was told by an old-timer, he said to me, Alan, don't let the things that Alcoholics Anonymous gave you back take you away. And what he meant to me by that was, don't let your business life and your family life and your social life and all those things that Alcoholics Anonymous gave you back take you away. I heard a lady last night at a meeting that had been sober 12 years, and she got a little too busy for Alcoholics Anonymous. She got a little too comfortable, whatever. I don't want to get there. I don't ever want to get there, because this is the greatest life. The best years of my life have laid ahead of me. And so I go out to that detox meeting, and those guys that come in there are the same guys some of them that I used to sleep with in that playhouse, that I used to drink with. Yeah. And so every week, and it's not about what I say to them, it's about me being there. It's not so much what I say, it's me to be consistent every week, because they're wondering, is he going to be drunk this week? Is he going to be in we call them the detox Reeboks, or those little paper shoes. I might take them these, I don't know. These, we'll upgrade on these little rascals. But anyway, So anyway, I come in there every week, and who else can reach those cats? See, nobody else can reach those cats. The medical people can't reach them. Medicine already said they don't have an answer. Psychiatrists don't have an answer. Religion doesn't have an answer. Nobody has an answer but another drunk. What an awesome deal. What a heavy responsibility. So it's into action. It's into action. Every day I talk with 3 or 4 other drunks, and I don't use the word sponsor. I use the word friend or prospect or protege. I use another drunk talking to another drunk. I was also taught that I take my problems to my sponsor, and I bring the solution to the tables. I don't want to bring my problems to the tables. I'll take the solution there. So in step 12, where having had that spiritual awakening, I carry this message. So I had the privilege of being, they selected me to be DCM. And the reason that's kind of funny to me is because then I got into reading this service manual. Now, I was about, 5 or 6 years sober then, and I was going through that phase. I don't know if anybody's ever gone through that phase that's in this room, but I was in that phase where I was going to change the entire AA structure in the state of Colorado. And I was reading in the service manual how to do that. I was into the concepts. What's the concepts? Anyway, so I'm reading this. Bill's got this great article in there in Concept 9 about leadership. He does. And he talks about leading by example, not driving by mandate. So we're going to jails and we're going to high schools and we're doing this and that. And so I'm rotating out. It's a 2-year gig. So I'm rotating out. And we're at the barbecue, the district barbecue, you know, and I'm frying up the burgers and all this. So, my leg starts itching. So I'm thinking, well, it's the grease, the heat, whatever, right? So I rotate out of DCM with a case of the shingles. Now, if that's not driving by mandate, I don't know what else is, because shingles are produced by stress. Alcoholics Anonymous isn't supposed to be stressful, Alan. It's supposed to be joyful. So that was my experience. So I went through that little bleeding session as a DCM, and then I got rotated into or elected to an editor on this. I don't know if I'm sure in this area they have the same thing, a newspaper that comes out every 3 times, at least in our area, 3 times a year for the GSRs and the DCMs from the standing committee and all this sort of thing, and to let the groups know what's going on. Anyway, so they select me to be the editor. Well, I can't spell hardly, and that's the way it is in Alcoholics Anonymous. You'll end up with a job that seemingly you can't do. And then they also have a Spanish version. Well, I'm not bilingual either, so I'm having to get someone to translate this, and it's taken me out of what I'm comfortable with doing. But I still talk to the new drunk, no matter where I go in Alcoholics Anonymous. No matter it's a description of a job. It's not a title to govern by these things that they've let me do. And so my whole life in Alcoholics Anonymous, when I go back to Bill Leonard telling me about AA, and the way it turned out was that AA was the last place I went, which was the first place that worked. And it just floors me that that I was so blind for so long, that I lived in that darkness. But I understand living in that darkness. I understand not being able to differentiate the truth from the false. I understand that they're seemingly with the four, the 4 horsemen, the terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I got the hoof marks, I got plenty of that up and down my back. But I know today that none of us in this room have to live that way. We can live and be free of that. And so my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous is just that. And I love to say that I'm on top of it. On top of they call that. I was down in Clarksdale, Mississippi, speaking, and they talk about being on top of your program like they talk about being on top of the Delta. But anyway, so I'm on top of most of the time. I still have human fallacies. I still go through periods where I get that knowledge from nowhere and I get frustrated and angry, but I have a solution. I have the willingness. That's another thing in the book. It talks heavily about willingness, and I had the willingness. I don't know that I had the honesty. The honesty came at a later time for me. The willingness just to believe that these guys and gals that had gone ahead of me had a way out of that darkness into the light. And what a powerful thing to think about us in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, us as members of Alcoholics Anonymous, to be able to go out and help somebody, to be able to carry the message of hope to people. I don't know what you call it, a big service guy, to me, that's what saved my life in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what fulfilled that circle, because I was recovered and I had unity, and I feel like a lot of times I hear speakers and they don't talk enough about it's not a separate entity, it's all together. And so I would encourage especially, they encouraged me right away as a new guy to do the coffee. I love the idea that you folks have greeters here. I think that's just awesome. I would encourage any of the new folks to be greeters, to go on the 12-step calls, to go to the detoxes. I think I have problems. I have luxury problems. I don't have a problem today. I truly don't. I think I do, but then I get a call from somebody who can't stop drinking. Cannot stop drinking. I got no problems today, ladies and gentlemen. I have a few, luxury problems, whatever. I have to go rent a tux. Wham. Good Lord. I made such a, well, I do the 10-step tonight. I'm just going to be laughing at myself. I made such a thing about this deal that, and God bless Ryan for just bearing with me and getting me through that. And the other guy there you are over there. And then the other guy that spoke before me, I really enjoyed what he had to say. But I did. I appreciate coming out here. I don't have any great balls of fire to deliver other than the fact that Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, and it can do that for anybody that's in here, anybody with less than 30 days. Please keep coming back. That's what they told me. The mind, bring the body, the mind will follow, do those simple things. They told me things like, behind every skirt there's a slip. I lived it. Trust me, I lived it. Not trying to be sexist. I lived it. I think I'm about out of time. Where's my timer? 2 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay. I lived that deal early on in Alcoholics Anonymous, and so I won't go into that. It's not necessary. We all have stories about that. But I really enjoyed when I came here before. I was impressed with the cohesiveness of this group. I know we say we're unorganized, but we don't have a central government, But you guys are well organized. You're very friendly. Everything came off smooth that you did. I was here a month or 2 months ago, did a little 10-minute speaker deal, and I was happy to be asked by Michael to come back. If anything that I've said tonight has touched anybody's heart, that's what I wanted to do, was just touch one person's heart, And in closing, what I can share with you, I didn't say much about my parents. They're still alive, God bless them. They're almost 90 years old. And I don't say much about them because I have a hard time still this day with that. But the good news is that they're alive. They were able to see me get sober because this was a woman that used to come to prison and visit me. And trust me, if you haven't experienced sitting across a table from your mother in prison, I hope you never have to, because that's where alcohol took me. But the good news is, and there's always good news with Alcoholics Anonymous, the good news is my mother says to me, she says, now, when you go and speak, you don't tell those people you're alcoholic, do you? Because see, I still just have a problem with the drink. You understand that? I just have a problem with that drink. So God bless her. I said, well, Mom, I do, but they understand. Well, you don't announce it, do you? God bless her. But the good news, more good news is, if I can get through this is my mother doesn't fully understand Alcoholics Anonymous, doesn't fully understand the illness. She's 90 years old. She doesn't need to. One thing she does understand, that since I've associated with you people, she got her son back. And thank you so much for that. I'm done.